Hi, my name is Jillian Lorenz, and I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of the Barre. I'm currently 35 weeks pregnant with my third child, and I'm here to share some tips and tricks with you to help you along your pregnancy journey. First and foremost, just make sure you get clearance from your doctor that this fitness program is okay for you. And secondly, make sure you listen to your body, because every body is different and every pregnancy is different. So modify as needed. I know it's challenging to find time to work out. For myself, I'm juggling my 2 kids at home, my husband, and of course a job I love so much. But it's because of those priorities that I make this time for myself. Not only the physical benefits to help prepare you for labor and delivery, but also just the mental release and clarity that allows me to be more present as a mother, wife, and boss. During pregnancy, your resting heart rate is naturally higher, so it's very important that you stay hydrated. So grab your water bottle and we'll get right into it. All right, so first and foremost, we're gonna talk about working your core. As your pregnancy continues, your muscles are going to change, and it's really important that we start working our core and our pelvic floor from day one, and we continue throughout the entire pregnancy. The great news is we're not gonna be doing any crunching or twisting. We're actually really gonna work inward and start to really leverage breath to tap into that musculature. So I'm gonna go through 3 different variations of breath that we're gonna be using and that you can leverage throughout your workouts. The first is gonna be diaphragmatic breathing, which is really belly breathing. So if you think about breathing from your belly versus breathing from your chest. So the best way to test yourself here is to make sure that you keep your shoulders back and down, and those shoulders should not creep up at all at any point during this breath exercise. What you really want to think about is filling that belly up, and you want to think about your belly being the front, so the abdominals that we're used to before pregnancy, and then also through the sides, so out through the obliques into the low back. And as the belly expands, you want to think about the pelvic floor, which is kind of like a hammock from front to back, side to side, opening, releasing down. The diaphragm is going to push down, allowing the lungs to fill up with air. And then as you exhale, everything's going to wrap around the spine, protecting the spine and the baby, and hug in nice and tight. So we'll just do a couple diaphragmatic breaths together. So you're going to take a big inhale. Feel everything expand. Try to keep the shoulders relaxed. And as you exhale, everything hugs in nice and tight. So you can do that several times. I actually love to take diaphragmatic breaths in the morning with my meditations. So they're not forceful, and that's going to be the difference between diaphragmatic breathing and belly pumping. So belly pumping is the next breath exercise, and we're going to demonstrate that on all fours. So I'm going to go ahead and come onto all fours. We're going to take those hands directly underneath your shoulders. Your spine is going to be nice and long. Make sure there's no wrinkles in the back of your neck. You're not going to lock those elbows out, so you get some tricep work here. And then what we're going to do is go ahead and do the same thing as diaphragmatic breathing, but this time we're going to do more forceful exhales and more forceful inhales. So just a little bit more leverage there, right? So we're going to take a big inhale. As you do, your belly should expand, and when you exhale, you hug everything nice and tight. Your pelvic floor is going to lift, and everything's going to wrap around. So let's do that again. On all fours, take a big deep breath in. Let the belly expand, and then exhale. Hug everything nice and tight. So you can go ahead and take those belly pumps. You can do about 4 or 5 before you actually start an exercise to really contract that core. The last breathing exercise that we're going to walk through is called abdominal wrapping. And this is a great way to think about your core, your musculature, in 3 different chambers. Okay, so first and foremost, we're going to talk about the lower chamber, which is the pelvic floor, so that hammock that I talked about, lifting it up, and then anchoring in the lower chamber, hip bone to hip bone, those lower abdominals. And then sectioning off the midsection here, wrapping those abdominals around nice and tight, supporting the spine. And then the third chamber is really going to be knitting those ribs together. Okay, so this is a great way to really make sure that you're nice and secure and ready for your movement. Okay, so we're going to do that on all fours again to demonstrate here. So we're going to come right back, hands in line with those shoulders, knees in line with those hips, spine is nice and long, soft bend in those elbows. And then what we're going to do here first is take that big breath. So everything is going to expand. As you exhale, I want you to go ahead and pull the pelvic floor up and then knit hip to hip. You're going to hold that breath, and now the breath is just going to expand through the midsection. So you're going to inhale. As you exhale, knit the second chamber, and then finally, you're going to take that more of a chest breath this time. You're gonna inhale and then close the ribs. Now everything's super nice and engaged and we're ready for movement. All right, so now that we're all anchored in, we're gonna get into our first exercise called the Birddog. This is gonna really help us challenge our stability, which is really important as our belly is growing and our center of gravity is shifting. So what we're gonna do is extend the opposite leg and opposite arm, lift them up to parallel, make sure that spine is nice and long. And then from here, you can anchor in if you'd like to again, just making sure you use those breaths. You can take belly pumps and or the wrapping. And then from here, we're gonna go ahead and drop the toe down, drop the fingertips down, and then squeeze to lift it up. Drop down for 2, and squeeze to lift it up. Engaging through those glutes, engaging through the hamstrings, and then reaching in opposition towards opposite sides of the room. Using that breath to exhale on the lift. You're gonna go ahead and take that about 15 to 20 times and making sure you're using your breath as you lift your limbs. Again, it's super important to make sure that we use stabilization to help us work that core. As our belly grows, the center of gravity is gonna shift and it's gonna be harder for you to stabilize, and you're gonna feel that deep core contraction really working as you're moving those limbs. The next movement in Birddog, we're gonna take that same opposite arm and opposite leg. We're just gonna reach to the corners of the room. So we're gonna take it out to the side and then squeeze directly into the midline. And now we're shifting the focus, not only of course to the core, but then the outer hips and inner thighs, okay? So out, squeeze into the midline. Still lifting through that pelvic floor. And again, really stabilizing. You can take the same amount of reps here, 15 to 20. And then once you do that, we'll take a break. So what you're gonna do, what's great is just to release through those hips. You can take those hips side to side, or you can take a small cat-cow. When you're ready, we're gonna take both sets on the opposite side. So you're gonna extend that back leg and front arm this time, and then go ahead and lift up if you need to, anchor in again, or take a belly pump. And then from here, we're gonna drop the fingertips and the toes, and then lift them up, nice and strong, engaging through the glutes, the hamstring, keeping that spine nice and long, leveraging that breath the entire time. You'll take the same amount of reps, and once you're up there, you can hold it, and then go right into that outward motion. Using those outer hips and inner thighs, squeezing it all into the midline with a final hold. You'll take same amount of reps on both sides just to equal it out. And we're gonna go into our next move. All right, we're gonna move from stabilizing the core to working those obliques. So everybody's gonna love this. We're gonna join me on the floor here. You can come all the way down into your side and use your hand to support your head. And before we get started in that side plank series, we're gonna use our breath to really activate through those obliques. So we're gonna take the same breathing exercises that we talked about earlier. We're gonna take a belly pump or diaphragmatic breath, whichever one you like. You're gonna take a big inhale, feel everything expand, and as you exhale, hug everything nice and tight, and you're gonna feel that activation on that bottom oblique. What's happening here is gravity is naturally letting that belly drop, and it's heavy, right? The baby's getting big. And what we're doing when we contract the core and hug the muscles around the spine, you're actually engaging that bottom oblique and lifting the belly up, okay? So I'm gonna take one more before I prepare to get into my side plank. So big inhale, expand, exhale, hug in nice and tight. Then I'm gonna go ahead and drop down to that right forearm. You can take any modification. If you're in your first trimester, you can keep both feet stacked. And second, as long as it feels good. And when you get a little bit bigger, you can go ahead and come onto the knee, okay? Or, if it feels right, you can lift both hips up, okay? So we're gonna come into a side plank here. And then what we're gonna do is reach that top arm to the sky, and we're just gonna take little lifts, tiny lifts. I'm gonna drop onto my knee. It feels better for me. And just take those tiny little lifts up here. Okay, so small movements, reaching through those fingertips, pushing into the floor with that right forearm, activating through those obliques. Small movements, still engaging through the glutes. You're gonna do about 15 of these, and then you're gonna hold it up top, and we're gonna take another balance challenge. You're gonna reach through those fingertips, bring your gaze up to the sky, squeeze through that booty, and hold it there for about 10 seconds, and gently release. We're gonna swing those legs around and take it to the other side. So same thing here, you're gonna come onto that all the way down to that floor. Rest your head into your hand, and then go ahead and relax that belly. You're gonna feel it resting on the floor. And we're gonna take that same diaphragmatic breath. Big inhale, exhale, hug everything, lift the belly from that bottom oblique. Prepare yourself. Then we're gonna go ahead and press into the ground. Push that left forearm down and then extend those legs into your side plank. Reach that hand up, make the modifications that feel good for you, and then take those tiny little lifts. Again, gaze up, making sure that spine is nice and long, engaging through your glutes, lifting the quad off the kneecap. Take the same amount of reps here, and then one final balance challenge. Reach, 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 reach. Hold it for the same amount of time, and then gently come down. Should really wake up those obliques. We're gonna finish off this series by working that booty one more time with those obliques. And why it's really important to work your glutes during your pregnancy is for some extra support for that spine. Your belly's doing a lot of work holding onto that baby, and those glutes really help to support that spine as your belly gets bigger. So let's go for it. We're gonna come on to all fours. Hands are gonna be underneath those shoulders, soft bend in those elbows, knees underneath those hips. And then when you're ready, you're gonna come down to that right forearm, okay? What we're gonna do is bring that heel into the seat, and then we're gonna go ahead and go into our fire hydrant. So we're gonna squeeze that outer hip, lifting that leg up for 2, and then lower back down. Lift up for 2, and lower back down. So now we're working the obliques along with the outer hips and those glutes. You always have an option to tuck your back toes to anchor down a little bit more. Lift it up for 2, and lower. We're gonna do that for about 15 to 20 reps, and then we're gonna hold it up top and take little squeezes. Just tiny little squeezes here. Again, you're gonna feel it through that midsection, through those obliques and that outer seat. Tiny little pulses, and then you're gonna take a final hold, squeezing that booty as much as you can. You're gonna hold it for about 10 seconds, and then gently release. We're gonna go ahead and take that right into the other side. So hands directly underneath those shoulders, soft bend in those elbows, knees underneath those hips. Bring that heel in towards the seat. Dropping onto that left forearm. We're gonna go ahead and lift it up for 2, and then lower down for 2. Lift it up for 2, and lower down for 2. You do the same amount of reps on this side. You're gonna hold it up top. You can anchor down if you'd like with that bottom foot, and then tiny little squeezes through that outer seat. Tiny squeezes, and then your final hold. Lift it up as high as you can. Feel those obliques fire again, and then gently release. Again, you can come right back onto all fours, releasing through that spine, releasing through that core, taking your hip circles here, or small little movements through that cat-cow. So you can leverage any of these exercises throughout all of our workouts here at the Barcode. When we get to a core section, move to your breathing, move to these modifications, and enjoy this special time. Congratulations, embrace all the changes.